Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we bring you information about great things that are happening in our community, and today will be no different. You know, when you think about multiculturalism, you really think about the spectrum of opportunities that people have to talk about all of the many people who are represented in this community. And in my position, we try to make sure that every single demographic is represented. Today, we're going to be talking about our older population, the elderly group that lives in our community, and some of the challenges that they face from a medical perspective. And I have an expert here talking with us today. He is the founder of the Center for Aging right here in the city of Huntsville, Alabama. He's none other than Dr. Zaheer Khan. Dr. Khan, welcome to the broadcast.
Good afternoon, Kenny.
It's good to have you here. You know, we've been talking about having this conversation for a while, and I've really been looking forward to it. And I'm glad that we can take some time today to talk about topics that are very important to us. And I say us because I got my AARP card about 8 years ago now. And I'm on that upward climb. I call it the upward climb. Some people upward climb. Some people call it the downward climb. But I'm on the upward climb towards the elderly population that we often talk about. And so with every step of the way in which each passing year I get more interested about those challenges that people face because I'm rapidly moving towards becoming part of that population. So thank you for being with us today, and I look forward to our conversation. I also should note that you are the only practicing gerontologist and geriatrician in North Alabama, and perhaps one of the first things we could do is just make a distinction between those two terms so that people can appreciate what you're bringing to the table today.
Yes. A geriatrician is a person who specializes clinical training in meeting the unique needs of older people. This aspect of medical care has been neglected because our system, our educational system in our country was not prepared to see this surge in older people. And so the training was not provided to the previous generation of physicians. And now we are seeing the baby boomers coming in. The human body changes as we get older. I tell my patients, your skin changes, and so your internal organs change. So, for example, at the age of 65, your kidney, liver, and other organs are functioning at 50% capacity.
Wow. Is that for a normally healthy person?
A healthy, normal person all over the world.
Wow.
But the blood tests do not show that change. So when we, on the other hand, you have a person at 70 with multiple medical problems and multiple medications. So we have this three-dimensional problem, the aging process, multiple diseases, and multiple medications.
Wow.
And we have found that the cost of the government for health care, 80% is for people above that age group.
Wow.
15% are consuming 80% because our system is not able to prepare.
Wow.
So this science of aging started initially in England, where I was trained as a specialist in 1980. That is 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, I have been working in various parts of the world to develop this concept of unique care that these frail older people require.
What made you interested in this demographic? You know, a lot of people that go to medical school specialize in various things, but you don't necessarily hear a lot of people saying, I want to be a geriatrician. So what attracted you to that demographic?
What I did was, when I completed my fellowship in internal medicine and neurology from India, my father, I was the youngest child, and he developed dementia and he fell and he could not walk. And I was in the hospital and as primary caregiver for 6 months. I left my job. And during that time, I realized that being a specialist and having such excellent grades in my school, I was not able to take care of my own father. So as I went through that cycle of care for him, because he cared for me so much, I realized that I could make a great contribution to his dreams. And so that is how I went back to England after my father passed away. And I developed a fellowship in geriatric medicine and geriatric psychiatry as well. Because I believe that our system here in this country is too fragmented. When you're localizing your care on one organ, you're not having the holistic approach, your totality approach of the individual taking into consideration his social background, financial, home environment, medications, accessibility, and that is lacking in our system. And so that I think is critically important, that you take the whole person. As I gave in one of my lectures, that a geriatrician takes care of the forest, not decorated trees.
That's a great way to create the analogy of what you do and the importance of what you do. So Dr. Khan, tell me what the Center for Aging is and how did it get started, and basically what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I was in practice in Huntsville, Alabama for the last 20 years, and I was seeing only patients above age of 70, and we are available 24 hours. And so when my children got old enough and left and I became an empty nest, I spoke to my wife and I said, we need to start something in my parents' honor and memory. So we opened a nonprofit, which is different from a practice, a nonprofit center for aging in 2009, without help from anybody. And then we gathered a board members, eminent scientists from NASA, who were my patients, and they helped us to build up that form. And what we did was, we wanted to look at, see what is the greatest impact we can have on our community in terms of a change in their life, to give them a better quality of life, an ability to have a graceful living. And so, since my father had fallen, I knew that an eminent man like him disintegrated to the point that he could not even sit up. So I thought we should focus on fall prevention. And so we opened the first center in the country, in the United States, called the Fall Prevention Program. And we, in fact, talked to the director for the Center for Disease Control about, because they wanted us to establish a national center for fall prevention. So what we did was, with our own personal finance, I opened a huge hall, retraining the brain with strategic movements, and it is free for the community.
Wow.
And so what these do is, it also helps us to understand how to stand up. And so people are not aware that at the age of 65, 1 in 3 people fall each year. Normal, community dwelling people. They don't tell the physician. And it is the commonest cause for going to the nursing home. And you can prevent this by 70 to 80%. So since I thought it's preventable, we started the fall prevention program. And then once it went word of mouth, we had no place in the hall. We had 400 people and all the activities free. We did not charge our patients because it is open to all the community. And we didn't want to discriminate and leave behind the people who need the most. Because in our society, it is the poor who suffer the most.
Yeah.
And so from there, we wanted to replicate the program. So I approached different churches. I spoke to different community leaders. And the First Baptist Church in Governor's Drive, they were gracious enough to open their halls for us. And now they have 300 people taking part.
Wow.
3 days a week, free of cost.
Wow.
And we have expanded this into 14 other churches, including the Alabama Center for the Deaf and Blind Institute. Because we felt that those who are deaf and blind are having difficulty in having a quality of life. So by using international research, we wanted to impact their life.
You know, I feel even more privileged to have you on the show talking about this as Multicultural Affairs Director for the city, because you cover so many of the demographics that I work with and so many of the communities that I work with. And it's amazing that this type of thing is being done right here in the city. I mean, you're pioneering some things, you're groundbreaking in the kinds of work and initiative that you're engaged in. It's very fascinating. I want to ask you something about the falling piece, because obviously we're vulnerable to falls. We recover a lot quicker when we're young. In fact, we think we're invincible as kids. When we fall, we get up, we practically beat ourselves up and get back up and keep going. But as we get older, our bones become more fragile and the healing process takes longer. And I'm just wondering, one in 3 after the age of 65, I believe you said, What percentage of those falls leads to perhaps major illnesses, disease, and premature death?
Yeah. One of the research, international research, and just to inform, let you know, this is not my ideas at all. But having been a physician who has never left the bedside of my patients, available 24 hours, and I looked at it and I looked at the entire world literature, and I have something like 3,000 articles on balance and falls. So I collected all of them, and fortunately in 2008, CDC came out how to develop a community-based fall prevention program. And we started the program before CDC actually printed it. And what we said in that was that your brain cells are able to change. It's called neuroplasticity, which means we are able to teach and new tricks to the brain. I call teaching an old dog new tricks. So what we do is, for example, if I stand up and start looking around this way, I'm not used to that. So when I do that, there are 10 billion cells in the brain. About 5 billion get activated by new movement. And they create new chemicals and create new pathways. And what that does is, that allows the brain to retrain itself. And so the program which we are talking is not an exercise, it is a lifestyle which gives a healthier quality of life to the patient. And what greater quality than independence, that you can take care of yourself. I have, my oldest patient is 109 years old, and she can walk just with a cane right now. And she's doing it for the last, I think, 15 years.
Wow.
And I have patients in the community who were falling about 200 times a year, and they're not falling anymore. And anyone can go and talk to them at the church.
The brain science behind this is fascinating, and I'm sure that with the development of things like MRIs and PET scans and CAT scans, you can now see things in the brain that maybe 25 years ago you didn't have access to. And I'm sure that that has actually moved your ability to know and be more informed about what the possibilities are. And as you talk about the many billions of cells in our brains and the abilities of those cells to do different types of things and make different adjustments based on our life circumstances, there has to be this vast area that's not even known out there, that is just sort of waiting to be discovered. And I'm certain that with the kinds of things that you're doing, the cutting edge research that you're doing, as well as the specific hands-on everyday things that you're doing, you must be very optimistic about making, a significant dent in reducing some of the problems of aging.
No, certainly. In a proactive approach, a preventive approach, a healthier living, it is, and the goal of the Center for Aging was to educate our community about what is available and how you can change your life for the better with very minimal change in your life. And that is our main goal.
Dr. Khan, I'm so fascinated by what we're talking about. I want to ask you to come back and talk to us in our next segment so we can talk a little bit about effective medication management among older people, because that's a huge area that has to be, I think, considered when we talk about getting older. You referenced that at the very start of our conversation, but I want you to come back and talk a little bit more about that so that we can give our audience a chance to really understand some more things about this. All of us are either aging or have aging parents or friends, and it's interesting when we have different community dialogues and forums, and we have a Center for Aging, that we don't see these things as just incidental things in the community, that we find some way to connect to them and the information that's available. And you're talking about these free services that are out there that can help many hundreds and even thousands of people. This is important information for people to have. So I want you to hang around and let's do another show so that we can let people know that. But tell people where they can get information about the Center for Aging.
Right. The Center for Aging, our website is centerforaging.net. And you can go on the website and look at we call it Balance for Life. That's our name of our program to maintain independence. And there they have classes in about 14 different locations. And as I mentioned, it's free and you can go whenever you want.
That's awesome. We're going to Make sure that people get that website. It's easy to remember, centerforlife.net. And
Centerforaging.net.
Centerforaging.net. And don't let me mess it up. Centerforaging.net. And we'll make sure that people can get that information. Dr. Khan, thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to the very next conversation with you, which is coming up pretty soon.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast today as well. We're going to have Dr. Khan back in our next broadcast so that we can finish our conversation on some of the challenges that the aging population faces, because, you know, aging is inevitable. We're all on that journey, regardless of what point of the journey you're on, and there's so many things that need to be known about it. We want to invite you to be a part of our conversation as well. You can follow us on Facebook at Impact with Kenny Anderson, where we post pictures of the broadcast, our guests, and also some backstory lines as well. In the meantime, we hope that you have a great rest of the week, and remember, keep your head to the sky. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.